104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Nice enough to join us from ESPN 710 in Seattle is Danny Oniel. After the Giants win over Denver, Danny, do you guys in Seattle see any reason to be worried about them?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons to be worried. First of all, that game, New York, they played better in that game than the Seahawks have in any game this season, and Seattle really has had a hard time putting together a full four quarters on either side of the ball. The two of their home victories have come against two of the worst teams in the league, in the 49ers and the Colts, and in both of those games, they really needed to kind of pull it out of the hat in the second half. And while they blew out, it looked like a blowout against the Colts, and they were down at halftime. They've definitely had some trouble this season.
Can the Seattle Seahawks actually run the football against this New York Giants defensive front?
Sure didn't look like it the way the Giants played on Sunday. Denver had 46 yards rushing, and Seattle, we're now in the second season of a continuing inability to move the football on the ground. It's a huge problem because that's what Pete Carroll wants to do more than anything else, is be able to run the ball and control the clock and all of those things. And Seattle they're not quite as bad as they were a year ago, but they haven't looked good. And their starting running back, Chris Carson, he's out for the year.
Danny Oniel with us right now from 710 ESPN in Seattle. And Danny, the Giants finally tried to run the football. I know Cliff Averill not going to be there, stuff like that. Is this Seattle front going to be able to shut them down if they actually commit to it again?
Yeah, I think that there's been some, and statistically it looks real bad. Seattle they're not even really middle of the pack. They're in the lower half of the league, and this has been one of the league's best defenses for the last 5 years. I think they're better than that. They've had two big runs against them so far, a 61-yard run by the 49ers, then a 75-yard touchdown run from Derrick Henry. So I think they're better than that, and I think they'll clean that out of there. But it certainly is possible that they're not as fearsome. They're not as big as they've been in the past. Even the addition of Sheldon Richardson, he's not the biggest defensive tackle. They are quicker. I think their defense is going to end up better than it's looked so far, but there's certainly that's a matter of faith at this point because they've had some real problems early on.
Danny, when we did our picks before the season started, like everybody does, I took Seattle to beat Oakland in the Super Bowl, and now I'm starting to wonder if either one of my teams are going to show up. Is there hope on the horizon for Seattle to kind of be a little more consistent?
Sure. The hope is that Russell Wilson is able to and begins to play like he looked back in August. He hasn't had a great start to the season. Now, I think some of that's because they don't have a very good offensive line, and that inability to run the ball, Russell needs that support. He needs that to have an effective ground game to really make the other things he does that much more lethal. I think the hope for Seattle is, hey, you know what? Our defense is, aside from a couple of big plays early on, the defense has played really well, and we get those out of the system. They stop giving up big runs. We'll be fine there. The bigger question, though, really is going to be whether or not their offense is ever able to significantly take a step forward, and that'll start with running the ball. As far as Oakland's a really talented team, but that defense, I think, is going to be a problem for them all year.
Are these guys in the secondary for the Seahawks a bit bummed out that they didn't get to go up against Odell Beckham Jr.? It's a little trash talk could have been leading up until the game.
Would have been interesting to see that. Now, the Seahawks have a lot of respect, and Richard Sherman, he had a couple of picks against the Jets last year when Brandon Marshall was there, but they have a lot of respect for Brandon Marshall as well. I know they would have loved the challenge, and it would have been great for all of us to see. As far as being bummed, I know that Seattle, that probably doesn't quite capture their emotion because it's not like they would have been, it's not like they want to have or be able to, they're like, man, it's sure, but I think we all would have enjoyed watching that matchup.
Danny Oniel from ESPN 710 in Seattle with us. And Marshawn Lynch goes from Seattle, retires for a little while, then he's in Oakland. Last night, runs on the field during a little bit of a skirmish. What's going on with him? What is that? Is that just one of those things where you throw your hands up in the air and say that's just Marshawn?
Yeah, I've seen him come off the sideline before, but I hadn't seen him get involved. Certainly hadn't seen him push an official, and it kind of looks like in the middle of shoving the guy, he realizes he's pushing an official, and he tries to unshove him or just hold on to him so he doesn't dump him on the ground. I think the bigger question people are going to have, and I know I've already heard it down there, who is he coming to help? Because Marcus Peters, the player who was flagged on that play who hit Derek Carr, that's his cousin. And I wonder, I really wonder if he was he mad at Peters, so he went out to try and grab him, or was he trying to protect Peters from getting beat on by some of the Oakland offensive linemen? I think there are going to be some questions about that. And aside from him coming off the bench, it's really a silly decision for him. But I think there might be some internal sort of questions from his teammates about sort of who was he trying to help there.
That plus the moments that happened after when he gets ejected from the game and he goes into the crowd. The video and the photos are now out there of him hanging out in the Oakland crowd. You were there covering Marshawn Lynch. Do you have any other stories like this where he did something so bizarre that no one else does that Marshawn thinks, oh, this is just me being myself?
So on the victory parade after they won the Super Bowl, Marshawn didn't return with the team from New York. They win the Super Bowl. He's kind of that night. He's off at the victory party with everybody. He doesn't come back with the team the next day when they do. He ends up. Nobody's seen him and knows if he's even going to be there for the parade. And then he winds up on one of the trucks. He was with the cheerleaders. He was along with them on theirs. And somebody, as they're going along, has got a bottle of Fireball, like a bottle of that sweet whiskey.
Yeah, cinnamon whiskey.
And he reaches down, grabs it, takes a swig out of it, and then hands it back to the guy. It was one of those sort of pure Marshawn moments. Look, I'm endlessly entertained by him. This new reality show that he has on Bleacher Report, I'm all aboard on that. It doesn't surprise me in the least that he went out and sat with the crowd for the second half.
Danny Oniel from ESPN 710 in Seattle. So it's a football Friday, so we're putting you on the spot. How do you see this game playing out? What's the final score?
Well, the final score that I predicted, I think Seattle's going to have a really hard time. I really do, and I think that I see the Giants able to stop the run game, and that Seattle's going to continue to struggle on offense, and I see it being 2016 Giants.
Wow. Good. I like that call. It's a fun one. Danny, we appreciate you, man. Good stuff. Love the stories, and if it's all right with you, we'll hit you up again in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.